Hey everyone, welcome to another strap search. Before I get started this week, I figured, well, a lot of you wonder what does a guy like me eat for lunch before I go out and do all my strap searching. So I've got my lunch bag with me, and let's take a look what we've got inside. That's right, I keep my lunch bag full of plenty of greens. All kidding aside, I'm sure a lot of you were wondering, how do you get almost 4,000 singles from Las Vegas halfway across the country home? Or even 1,000 or two singles from the bank to your house. To be a little bit more inconspicuous, what I do is I literally use my lunch bag. This is an insulated lunch bag. When you look down, you can see it fits straps almost perfectly. When you're carrying it around, it's literally an insulated lunch bag. I have two of these, so I can, well, each one of these will hold almost 2,000 singles. So I can carry nearly 4,000 singles in two little bags that look like I just have a big lunch. So I figured I'd share that with you. That's this week's tip. How do you carry around money without letting everybody know it? That's my lunch bag. So let's get on with today's video. I'm going to set the camera down, and we will take the lunch bag and empty out my 1,000 singles. Almost all of them. There they are. 1,000 singles. I already went through them. I pulled out the good stuff, and I'm going to show you what we've got. So let's just take these. I know it's always a neat picture seeing 1,000 singles to start everything. So there's the 1,000. Set them aside, and let's see what I found. Before I jump into this week's find, I do want to revisit this one bill. This was the first bill I showed last week, and I was trying to remember all my notes on Carson City. So when I got to this note, I glanced over it and simply said it was a really crisp trinary. I was wrong. I forgot to mention that this is also a repeater. It's 4877, 4877. The serial number repeats. I should have made a point of that last time, and of course I put it in a holder right away. Wish I would have remembered that last time, but such is life. Alright, so now we're going to go to this week's finds. This week's finds, I'm still continuing with the bills I had from Vegas. Almost done. I did bring home a lot of them. These bills are coming from the Cromwell, Paris, the Link, Planet Hollywood, the Flamingo, Aria, Cosmopolitan, Bellagio, Harrah's, and Bally's. So these bills all came from the center of the Las Vegas Strip. So let's take a peek. First bill I found. This is part of the reason why I wanted to keep track of where I found it. I found me a lucky bill. Where's George? Another Where's George bill. Where's George bill? This particular one came from Planet Hollywood, so I will be logging that in there, saying that I found it at Planet Hollywood and I brought it home with me. That should be an interesting lookup. I did find an alternator. This one has one as the alternator, 51619171. So that was a good find. Found some trinaries. This one's zeros, ones, and twos. Found another trinary. This one is ones, fives, and nines. And this one is both a trinary and quads. It's zeros, threes, and sevens, and it starts off with 4 threes. That brings me to the other quads that I had found. Quad fours. This one's in really nice shape. Quad nines, missing a chunk out of the bottom and a hard crease. Probably not a keeper, but still a find. Another quad nines, a little bit older bill, a little bit raggy. And then I found 5 sixes on this particular bill, ending in 6666. This one came from the Cromwell. That is dead center of the Strip. That used to be the Barbary Coast at one time. Now they call it the Cromwell. It's gone through a couple name changes, but I made sure to make note of where I found that particular bill. Found a number of star notes. This one is painful. 2017 low number star note, and somebody wrote on it. So I will look it up. Hopefully it won't be a rare, because that would be sad to find a rare written on. Another 2017, not quite as low a number, not written on at least, so there's hope for that. A few 2013 star notes. That one's got a little bit of an overprint on the 7 there. 2014 star notes. 2015 star notes. 2016 star notes. 2017 star notes. 2018 star notes. 2019 star notes. 2020 star notes. 2021 star notes. 2022 star notes. 2023 star notes. 2024 star notes. 2025 star notes. 2026 star notes. 2027 star notes. 2028 star notes. 2029 star notes. 2030 star notes. 2031 star notes. 2032 star notes. 2033 star notes. 2034 star notes. 2035 star notes. 2036 star notes. 2037 star notes. 2038 star notes. 2039 star notes. 2040 star notes. 2041 star notes. 2042 star notes. 2043 star notes. 2044 star notes. 2045 star notes. 2046 star notes. 2047 star notes. 2048 star notes. 2049 star notes. 2050 star notes. 2051 star notes. 2052 star notes. Another 2013. Another 2013. Did find quite a few stars out of this batch. Like I said, when you bring bills from tourist areas, people aren't looking at their bills. They're just spending money left and right. So always find lots of neat stuff. This is a low number, fairly low number, and it's crisp, and it's a consecutive. The next one is a consecutive star note. Odds are that means it's probably not a rare note. Whenever you find consecutive star notes, they usually come when they cut the bills and the entire stack of 100 is cut crooked. Then they'll just replace that entire stack with star notes. So you'll end up finding consecutive star notes that way. The rare star notes are the ones that will be short printed and inserted one at a time when they find one or two bills that are bad on a sheet. So even though these are consecutive numbers, I don't have hopes for them being rare. But once again, that's another point about star notes that you want to know. Just because you find consecutive numbers, or even with regular notes, consecutive numbers don't necessarily add value to it. They make them neat. If you're trying to sell multiple bills, they may make them easier to sell than just the individual bill, but they don't necessarily add any additional value. Another star note. And another star note with somebody who wrote on it. Wish people would stop doing that. Unless they're Where's George. Higher number star note. This one probably is not going to have a whole lot of value. Then I get to the older notes that I found. This one is from 1999. Right there, you can see the date. I found another 99. Not perfect. 1995 in really nice shape. Another 1995, not quite as nice. Another 95. Another 95. You'll notice none of those 95 were web notes. I had already checked those. And then the oldest bill that I found in the group, not only was it an old bill, I put it in a holder right away. It's an old bill as in 1988, so the oldest bill that I found. But you'll notice it is a star note. Not only is it a star note, it's a star note from Kansas City. Now, I haven't looked it up yet, but I will. Kansas City doesn't produce a whole lot of bills, and to find a 1988 almost in pristine condition that's a star note, this has a lot of potential for being collectible. So I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to look it up. I'll give you guys an update. Back of the note is fine, centered really good, corners razor sharp, paper quality is great. Really good find for me, so I was happy about that one. So that's the paper that I found when I went through. And I know I've been on a little bit of a run with coins, but I've got a couple left here that I want to share with you. This has to do with the expression 2 bits. Have you ever heard the older generation refer to a quarter as 2 bits? Well, that doesn't even make sense when you think about it, because a quarter is 25 cents, and you can't have 2 of anything to make a quarter. You'd need something worth 12.5 cents, and we don't have half cents here. So where does 2 bits come from? Well, the answer to that goes back to the pirate days, believe it or not. What I've got here, this is a replica of what would be a Spanish rail or a Spanish doubloon or anything to that, anything that you'd hear pirates booty or whatever. Pirates would talk about pieces of 8, and they'd be referring to gold or silver coins. You'll notice this one is not, well, first of all, this is not a real coin. This is a replica. Second of all, it is cut in half. It's cut in half for a reason, actually. And I'll get to that. This one, if I remember, is 17 something. But like I said, it's just a replica, just to show what they look like. Because let's face it, not all of us can afford to have coins from, there it is, 1757. But the reason why this coin is cut in half is because these coins were very prominent. What wasn't prominent was change. So you could have this particular coin, Spanish dollar is essentially the best way to put it. You could have this coin, but if you had something that cost less than $1, what would you do? Well, to make change, what they did is they actually cut the coins in half. At that point, it was simply the fact that it was a precious metal. It was silver, or it was gold. So you'd have a half a coin, or you'd have a quarter of a coin. Well, how far would you go? That's the question. This is a better example of how far you would go. This is the same coin, except this particular coin was cut into the smallest denomination that they would do. They'd cut it in half, and then if that wasn't enough, they'd cut it in half again, giving you 4 pieces. And the smallest portion would go into 8. And that's why they were known as pieces of 8. Like I said, when you read pirate stories, or when you read books of the time, when they refer to pieces of 8, this is why. Because for change, they would literally cut them in up to 8 pieces. Now, one of these pieces would be known as a bit. In other words, if you had 2 bits, you had 1/4 of a coin. Therefore, the expression still lasts today. A quarter is 2 bits. Those are the bits they're talking about. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you learned anything new, hit that like button. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. I promise I'll be bringing back more paper. And don't forget to tell your friends. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.